Beautiful Friday, everybody. What is there not to love about Smith & Wesson? Company founded in 1852, had a little bit of a fallout between 54 and 56, then came back with a revolutionary revolver, a 7-shot 22 caliber. Forgot the model name, but good history. It ended up putting them back on the mark of being a successful company, and history took off from there. And then, just as a little bit of a mixer, brought my HK P2040. Gotta love it. So, like I was saying, Smith & Wesson, company founded in 1852, but ended up having a little flop there for a little while between 54, late half of 1956. They came out with a revolver, a little ahead of its time, but because of, it was called the Volcanic, little .41 caliber revolver. Tried to make it a case revolver, but with powders and whatnot back in the day. It didn't get a lot of popularity, wasn't reliable at all, was extremely weak, and ended up flopping. And so Smith & Wesson, or should I say Horace Smith and Dan Wesson, or I'm sorry, yeah, Dan Wesson, they ended up having to kind of walk away for a little while. And then in 1857, they realized that Colt was going to lose its revolver patent, and that was going to expire in 1856. So they hurried up and partnered up with a gentleman named Roland White, who was an ex-Colt employee. But what was beneficial about him is he held the patent for revolver type cylinders. So rather than partnering with him, what Smith & Wesson both did is they made him a deal when they were coming out with the Model 1. They offered him 25 cents per revolver that they sold. And doesn't sound like much in today's world, but 25 cents back in 1857, you're talking $9.50 per gun now. Smith & Wesson still definitely made off really well with it, though. They were selling the revolvers for about $12 a piece, and so all in all, it was about roughly 284,000 revolvers sold during the time that Roland White was making money. So all in all, he made about $71,000, which doesn't sound like much in today's world, but you know, if you do the math on that and consider inflation, he made about $3 million over the entire course of it all. So given, like I said, inflation. But pretty cool history. That started Smith & Wesson on their feet for the successful company that they have now. And from there, you know, they were in revolvers for a while. The Model 3 came out in 1870, and that was the first large caliber type revolver. It was a single action. It shot what they called the 44 American, I think 44 Russian, all the way down to a 32 caliber or 30.32 diameter bullet. And that was revolutionary. Smith & Wesson's always had this history of doing their thing. So speaking of their quality, we're gonna start off with the metal framed full size carry comp. Let's see how we do. Such a fun gun to shoot. Smith really makes amazing handguns. Anyway, so in 1887, they came out with the first hammerless revolver, and that was, again, pretty revolutionary. Success kept going. 1899, they came out with the 38 Special, what we know as today as the Model 10. But that was probably their first major success. They had over 6 million units sold. It was used by military and police all over the world. And guy, really good stuff. And then in 1913 they broke away with the revolvers and came out with the first semi-automatic pistol, which, speaking of, I'm going to try out the compact M&P 2.0 after I wreck the slide. Anyway, that first semi-auto pistol, it was just a 7-rounder. I think it was a .35 Smith & Wesson round that they used. And the unique thing about it is they had a side-mounted recoil spring. And from everything I've gathered on it, wasn't the most reliable gun for sure. But you know, in today's world, you get a hand on that, and it's a good collector's item, especially if you're a Smith & Wesson fanatic, which I'm growing to be. Really enjoying their pistols. Definitely loving the 10mm that I'm gonna go ahead and fire off right now. Flinched on that one. Let's try that again. Yep, so anyway, their history kept on growing. 1935, they introduced the .357 Magnum, which we all know today is still one of the most potent rounds in a self-defense. Police still use it in some jurisdictions. Most of them have gone to semi-auto pistols, but for the most part, .357 was something amazing. And then as history kept carrying on, and 1942 they came out with the Victory, which from what I gathered was, I think, originally made for the, there we go, the Women's Naval Reserve, which I believe stood for WAVES, which I believe that stands for Women Accepted for Volunteer Emergency Services. And what I guess they would do is they would carry confidential messages between units, and of course they would stay armed. It was a nice little .38 special, and everything I read on that one, you know, just a normal success like all of the other ones. In any event, 1950 they came out with their first double action single action revolver. It was a nice little .38 special, but that one gained a lot of popularity because of the double DASA is what we call it. And how do you know, history, she's still utilizing that technology today. So, you know, John Moses Browning gets a lot of history talk because of his revolutionary 1911. But you know, you read about stories like Glock, and then of course Horace Smith and Dan Wesson, you know, the history behind these people, and it's pretty remarkable, you know. And in any event, history kept on going. 1955 they came out with the famous Dirty Harry gun, the .44 Magnum. And even in today, or last time I'd seen, that gun even today is rated the 5th best revolver ever made in history, which is pretty cool. But then what is it, 1957 I believe, they ended up coming out with the, what was it, the Model 41. And that was revolved around, it was strictly kind of a competition gun. It was a 10+1 semi-auto handgun, just shot 22 long rifle cartridges. But still good history there. Take a time out. All right, so anyway, with all that revolver talk, might as well pull out the 627-5. I love this gun. Barely shoot it. Not because I don't love it. I just, real finicky. I clean my guns after every time I go shooting, and revolvers aren't my funnest guns to shoot. Anyway, so that's the beautiful revolver right there. Even shooting 38 special wood grip, or I'm sorry, 357 Magnum wood grip, it really balances well. That one, there are some revolvers that I shoot that are 357 Magnum, and I'll tell you, they're painful, very, very painful. But anyway, history went back on. So after that 1957 competition gun, they decided to make a bullseye shooter. It was a five shot 38 special revolver. It was the model 52 or 38 master bullseye, whichever one you'd want to call it. And anyway, then in 1965 they came out with the first stainless steel production firearm. So again, right there. And anyway, that was chambered in 357 mag, 38 special, and another one of them beautiful guns, very beautiful gun. And after that, of course, we all know the history, or most of us know the history of the FBI shootout, I believe in, 1984 or 86, where a couple of FBI agents ended up passing away. Ended up getting, a lot of it was credited to the 9mm rounds at the time. I guess they weren't potent enough. The bad guy that should have been shot and killed ended up staying alive enough to kill some agents. So that ended up bringing the birth of the 40 Smith & Wesson pistol, or the 40 Smith & Wesson cartridge. And you know, I know there's history behind Gaston Glock showing up, getting the cartridge, and hurried up and made his Glock before Smith & Wesson was able to introduce their gun, which would have introduced the Smith & Wesson round itself. And that one was called the Model 4006, and it was 11 shot 40 Smith & Wesson handgun that you know, it was used by again police forces throughout the United States, probably around the world. Honestly, it was a good 40 Smith & Wesson round, or a good 40 Smith & Wesson gun. Held its place, I think, until 2011, I believe, was when they finally stopped producing, or, you know, manufacturing that gun. And great gun. But give me 1 second. All right, so we're back. Sorry about that. A little too much coffee this morning. So anyway, all that talk about 40 Smith & Wesson, I think it's a good time to pull out the HK and shoot some Smith & Wesson. Pretty good gun to shoot. God, even today, I think the P2000 is one of the better HKs that they've ever made. I have multiple P2000s. I have this same gun in 40 Smith & Wesson, of course, and 9mm. I have the SK model in 40 Smith & Wesson, and then of course the VP9, which is this one right here. Carry that one. They say it's too big of a grip, but again, my Houston holsters fits just fine. Don't have any problems, and especially here in California, where when you conceal carry, you definitely don't want to see somebody or have somebody see you printing, because it wouldn't be a good idea. But anyway, on to the history lesson again. So Smith & Wesson in 2003, going back to revolvers, they ended up coming out with the Model 500, which I've never shot before, and I don't know if I really desire to. The 44 Magnum, everybody can call me a wuss all they want, I don't really care, but 44 Magnum is probably the most potent round I'm going to want to fire. That thing, especially, so I have this same gun in, I mean, same look, same everything in 44 Mag, and that gun, if you are not recoil sensitive, or you want to tell people that you're not recoil sensitive, shoot 5 rounds out of that thing. That thing is extremely painful to shoot. So given that, I don't want any part of the 500 round, or 500 Smith & Wesson round. Shooting out of Colts, I have a Colt 4¼ inch 44 Mag. What is that, the Anaconda? And that one, it handles the recoil really well. And you know, I have the same type of grips. I'm a cosmetic kind of person, so even though it's a little more painful, I love having my wood grips. So I have some wood grips on that revolver, and can't tell you why. Revolvers theoretically have the same shape, but it just absorbs the recoil a lot better. Could be the weight. That's probably a big factor, but it makes me a fan. And then of course, when you're shooting 44 Special, then it's real easy to shoot. So anyway, jumping back into the history stuff. So 2005, Smith & Wesson decided that they wanted to get into the polymer world and start competing against the likes of Glock and others. Came out with the M&P pistols, military and police, and of course there's a good history behind there, and it was adopted by the military and police for a long time. Then the following year, 2006, they was loaded. We're all loaded. Let's take a time out and shoot. Let me rechamber the round since I had already chambered it. All right, let's see. Got a bad guy target over here. They shoot really nice. The Glock fanboys don't know what they're missing here. Smith & Wessons are amazing. So anyway, 2006 came along. They introduced their first AR-15, at least that's to my knowledge. It was the MP-15 AR, and it's chambered in 5.56. Good history there, of course. And again, it was adopted by military and police all over the world. You know, did pretty good, and you know, from then on, literally, they've just been in the polymer pistol world. You know, continuing to revolutionize their company. You know, what is it, 2012, they came out with the M&P Shield. 2017 was the M&P 2.0, and I think they've had a couple of other ones since, but since they're not on the California roster, it's not worth paying attention to at the moment, if you know what I mean. But anyway, I'm going to need to stop saying in any event, don't I? I'm going to go ahead and take a pause and clean up some brass real quick. All right, so brass got all cleaned up, got everything arranged, matches my round count, which is good. So wanted to try something. I'm going to take 5 shots, and what I want to do, well, first let me show you these handguns. So I have the comped metal, and I ended up taking the slide from the metal gun, added it to my compact, which gives you a 1/4 inch extra barrel. But I want to shoot them side by side just to see if there's really, you know, a noticeable recoil difference with having the comped barrel. And what I want to do first is just do a side by side the way it's set up now, and then on the next go around I'm going to swap the slides, see if I notice any real difference there, or if the comped version is better on polymer, which I know it's not an even comparison because this is a compact grip compared to the full-size grip. But I do have the compact metal on reserve, but being in California, it's being stored away, waiting patiently for me. Got 10 days, or well, 9 days from now, and I'll be bringing that out. Probably do the same comparison again, but for now, let's see what we have. I'll do one shot a piece just so I can kind of get a good feel. Maybe you guys can see something that I don't feel. I don't know. In the event, so here's the Carry Comp full-size metal. All right, feels great. Let's take the compact polymer with the, I guess you'd say, full-size slide. Let's try that again. Huh. I'm starting to wonder if the comp barrel is really doing anything. I guess a little bit. I guess there's a little bit lighter. Was it worth paying $470 plus for the comp slide? I don't know. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to swap the. I'm going to go ahead and swap the slides and do this again. All right, so we're back. Did a little bit of a slide change. I messed it up at first. I felt like an FBI agent trying to do a demonstration on TV. Anyway, so now I have the way the gun was actually purchased. So the full-size metal slide, or full-size slide on the metal frame. Now I have the Carry Comp slide on the compact polymer frame. So I'm gonna do 5 shots again. See if there's a noticeable difference. During the last go around, you know, there was maybe a slight difference, but you're also talking 9mm, so I wouldn't oops, put it in the right one here. I don't think 9mm is very harsh anyway, so take that for what it's worth. But where I'm very interested, as soon as they come out with the 4-inch or 4 1/4 inch Carry Comp slide for the 10mm, that I'm really interested to try out. Even though I'm really happy with the recoil spring setup that I have. I know in my last video I mentioned I took out that 18-pound recoil spring and put in a 24-pounder, which actually makes it fire very, very nice. It shoots really smooth. The brass, you know, anywhere from 10 to 15 feet, which compared to other 10s that I have and that I've shot, even my XDM Elite Compact, I love that gun. But man, when you're trying to search for your brass, you're having to walk out about 30 to 50 feet at least trying to find where it's at. So anyway, we'll do one shot again a piece, and I'm going to start off with the full-size metal with the original slide on it. Okay. Now we're going to go with having to reload that again. I think I'd remember. All right, so here we go. Now polymer frame, Carry Comp slide, compact frame. Well, let's see. All right. Last one out of that. So I would say this: if you're taking the slide and you're putting it on the full-size metal frame, or I'm sorry, the Carry Comp slide, putting in a goofed. You're putting it on the full-size metal frame. I feel like I noticed the difference over the regular slide that the firearm came with. I would say it makes this a soft shooter. On the polymer frame, to be honest with you, I think the 4¼ inch slide working in the grip of the polymer compact frame mitigates the recoil really well. And gosh, as much as I was going to get another carry comp slide, I think this is actually pretty sufficient. Guess I could do a little extra by putting in a DPM recoil reduction system, but again, is it really worth the money, knowing that this shoots, I would say it's very comparable to the full-size frame with the carry comp. Having the heavier slide on the compact frame really balances to the point where it's really tough to even notice a difference. Next time I go shooting and I have the metal compact frame, I'll be interested to try the same thing, maybe utilize the 4¼ full-size slide on that metal frame and then compare it to the same gun, same compact metal, and putting on the carry comp slide, see if I notice anything really different there. Definitely before I go and think of buying another slide. But great guns to shoot. Definitely love them. And closing the video off, even though it's not a Smith & Wesson, it's carrying the seeds. So we're going to do all right, I can rack it this time and feel safe about it. We're going to shoot 40 Smith & Wesson rounds out of here. A failure in an HK. Well, that's the first, but we'll blame it on the primer. Just didn't want to fire, so just for the sake of making 10 happen. Oop, I don't want to put in a 9mm round, do I? That'd be interesting. So we'll finish it off. One more 40 Smith & Wesson. These primers, so I have two different types of primers. It seems like the gold primers aren't a favorite of these, and you know, I had bought a lot of primers back in the day, and especially when COVID was going on, oops, shouldn't have said that, when the sickness was going on, I was trying to buy any primers that I could, and I believe some of the companies, there was one a little south of where I live, I don't want to mention them because it could have just been a fluke thing at the time, but I'm convinced that they were selling rifle primers and identifying them as pistol primers to make some profit. There we go. So anyway, the other primers shoot just fine, but that's the conclusion of the video. I appreciate you guys watching, and hope everybody learned something. Take care.